Hi, everybody. Hello, digital people. Hello, live people. How's everybody's energy? Thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down? Okay, we've got a little bit of everything, digital people. I can't see your thumbs, but we've got a mixed bag. So I'm just going to invite all of you to take care of yourselves during this, move around as you need to, if you need to stretch or if you need to get up or whatever, or ask questions or interrupt. It's all good. So, hi. This is so funny. First, I just want to say thanks to Alyssa and to Martin and to Pablo and to everybody who's here for arranging that we could be in conversation. This is really lovely to be with you all. I am a poet and also an author. I live in Vancouver, Canada. I've written 3 books of poetry and edited 2 anthologies. I'm the Poet Laureate of Vancouver for 2 more years. It's a 3-year term, and during this term I've been working with the concept of sound. As I've been learning about sound, I've been doing all of my legacy projects with the communities in Vancouver around sound so that I can learn more about it. I have a really deep community practice, usually working with people who are marginalized in some way, either through poverty, addiction, racism, neurodivergence, health issues. That's an area that I'm really interested in and I feel quite comfortable with. And I'm also, in my literary practice, very interested in hybridity. I run an award called the Warland Award. That's a literary award for books that do more than one thing in more than one genre. Am I speaking too fast?
No.
I'm good? Everybody, Suffer, you're good? You can hear me? No, I'm speaking too fast for Zephyr. But Zephyr, I'm going to just assume that you've just stepped away to get some tea or something, and I'll just keep going. But
No, sorry.
Oh, okay.
The sound was there.
Okay,
no. Had a problem. Yeah, everything is fine.
Okay, great. So I came into poetry quite late in my life. I didn't write my first poem till I was 38. And that's unusual for a poet, I think. It afforded me a lot of Zen mind, beginner mind, as I began writing poetry. And I'd say that my first language was movement. I came into it through ice, through figure skating, through kinesthetic awareness and proprioception. And this is something I feel deeply in my poems. So you might notice some of that when you're reading them. I certainly, when I am reading, have a physical reaction. My pulse will race, or I'll get super relaxed if I'm reading something else. I'm sure as composers and people working with music, you are familiar with this mirroring effect of what you're producing is also creating a state in you. And that's something that I find very, very beautiful. I've worked with pop and folk singers, and I've also worked with bluegrass singers and done some art song work too, which is strange and odd to me. I don't have a musical background or a classical training or too much awareness of that. So I really enjoy being in a place where I don't know things. From what I understand, there are 7 poems that I wrote for the GOE 26 Ice Opera project that some of you here today are going to put into song cycle form. That's the premise we're working with. Hi, Aiken. Welcome. Glad you could join us.
Hello.
Hey. Okay. So if it's okay with you all, I'll just whip through a quick number of slides that sort of are the origin story of these poems. And if anybody needs me to stop, if I'm using up too much time, just please let me know. Sound good? Okay. Here we go. Okay. Can't find my cursor, so that's exciting. But how do I get it onto?
Just drag it down.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So where do these poems come from? They come from the water. So on September 27th in 2020, I began an immersive experiment that's still running, and it's called Until the Book Faints. And this project documents the immersion and decay of a book that I kept underwater. The idea is that I must write about the book until it faints, until the book collapses, until the text is obliterated and too faint to read. So primarily this is photo-based, but the project also contains a lyric essay, and it investigates slow change, slow time, collaborations with nature, and also incorporates some recordings that I've done with Eduardo Abrantes, who some of you met. The main question of this project is, how do I turn something that is not a clock into a clock? Oh, look at that, there's a fade effect. Okay, so poets are obsessed with time, and composers, I think, are too. Other questions that obsess me are, how does a body change in water? How is a body like a book? How is a book a type of clock? And I'm trying to answer these before the project finishes. So far, the book I keep in a box of water in my office in Vancouver, Canada, refuses to faint. Though the ink is becoming fainter, the book is changing shape, and it just keeps reassembling. So I'm still writing about it, and the poems you were invited to set to music are part of this. So just a little note, as with all my practices, this procedure is intuitive, and it's spontaneous, and it's deeply relational. The poems speak to the confinement during the pandemic, as well as living during this time of the Anthropocene, which is the end times. It's also specifically about the ecological disasters of forest fires and the 2022 Pacific Northwest heat dome that killed 629 people and 1 billion ocean organisms in the space of 2 weeks in Vancouver. We had a cloud cover, we had heat, we had forest fires, and basically the ocean was just cooking. So working with all of you is one way to mitigate the dire feelings around climate collapse. And working with you to create new things is an act of creative sustainability for me. So may our collaborative processes be filled with creative curiosity and playfulness. Okay, so just a little bit of visual orientation for you as you move through these poems. I live within the coastal temperate rainforest of the Pacific Northwest, and it is a wet, wet place. This deep fjord is on Tsleil-Waututh First Nations territory, and it's accessible only by boat, but it's still only 20 minutes from downtown Vancouver. These are just a few photos from the beginning of this watery durational process that I started. So September 27th was collection day. That's when it all began. The day was dark and calm, and the water here is about 100 meters deep. So it's one of the deepest fjords at this latitude in any part of the world. About 20 minutes into the boat ride, I began to see waterfalls on both sides of the inlet. Water was crashing down over rocks. It was falling out from under the skirts of trees. Every so often, we'd stop the engine to listen for them so that we could come closer and look at them. I didn't know which waterfall I wanted to access until I saw it. I was sort of being guided by my own preferences and taste to find a place. And then about 18 kilometers up the fjord, I recognized the right waterfall immediately. And the water was really turbulent here. I'm quite far away from, this picture is quite far away from it, but it's a big waterfall. And when I was standing near it, you couldn't even hear my speaking voice over the crash of the water. My voice was drowned in noise. There was backsplash mist everywhere. My hair was covered in water, so it looked silver. It was hard to breathe because there was so much water in the air. I have lots of video and more photos on my website about this beautiful place, but I'm just trying to keep things brief, so I'll just skip along. So the basic premise is I took a book of poetry called Middlemost Constantine by my friend Ken White with me. And this book, which itself is about spells and solitude, is important to me not as a text for this project, but more because Ken's a person who was open and curious to these kinds of interventions, and it just felt like a really great fit. I knew he'd be into me drowning his book. Not all poets would be into that. So I wanted this sort of good energy around it. And I just had this idea. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I wanted to put the book underwater. And I will tell you that everything in me resisted submerging this book. We were talking, Emanuele, about the difficulty of making a mark in a book. Try drowning a book. It's really, really hard. I felt like I was half underwater. I was thinking about this flip, the move from one environment to another when the book goes from air into water. And I was thinking about the water speeding across the book like a rippling curtain of time. Everything seemed silver. I was thinking about speed. And the book was already folding and changing and bending, and it was fascinating. And this switch of environment is something that I feel when a poem is becoming something else, like a musical composition. I have that same feeling of alchemy. Physical alchemy too. So 48 hours after collection, I brought the book home in a Ziploc bag and I decanted it. I had a jerry can of this fjord water that I brought home with me, and I poured it into a box from IKEA, and I gently moved the book into this box as if it were a goldfish coming out of a pet store bag. And 48 hours later, I was looking at it all the time. I was sneaking up on it like it was a new pet. And look, it had its face pressed up against the plastic wall of the box. And I love this picture because it looks like a nautilus shell or a spiral or an image of the golden mean. So day 69, this was a very exciting update in the world of slow process art projects because an air bubble riffled up from the pages of the book as if it had been holding its breath. These kinds of little occurrences are like, woo, very noteworthy. And I was keeping a journal, a process journal, as I did this. And in my journal, I wrote, "A loneliness in water, an embolism in melancholy makes me miss supper. Solace sometimes surfacing, sometimes cycling." Here's a picture of this beautiful book that's now turned into a pan of lasagna. I don't know what it was doing, but it just decided to do this. This was on day 148. And in my notes, I wrote, "The book somehow pulling itself back together. It looks newer, newly dipped, not so dissipated. What are those fragments? Are they complete words? Are they dreams? Could I dry them out and reassemble a fresh text? What in the dappled, layered, pulped water is untouchable and solid at the same time? How can I dissolve something and make it more solid? Through the concretization of writing about it? I'm thinking of the forest felled and pulped into these pages, the carbon of pencil and smoke, the ecosystem dismantled and burning my throat." Day 444, I wave at the blurry figures through the window and fold over my reduced schedule, my somnambulance a music, if this practice is a mirror. Day 751, warbled glass, manipulated screen image, working extra to convey gesture as my body fades. My voice comes fainter. Every few hours, the digital clocks reset to 0. It's fine. It's meaningless. So you can see sometimes I'm a woman looking at the bookfish, and sometimes I'm feeling a confusion of maybe being the bookfish in that box. And I'm not so interested in the authorial speaker position. I'm interested in the slippage. This whole project is about slippage. So I can look at these images all day and find new things to write about every time I examine them. And in fact, that's what would happen. I would sit down at my writing desk and I would bring the bookfish out and uncover the top, and it would keep me company while I was writing. And And I hope that this experience that I have of finding the weirdness or the strangeness is something that you will experience in terms of possibility with the poems as you consider shifting their shape and pulling them out of the water and launching them into the air with vibration and breath. So I shared this with people that were working on the ICE project. This was my disclaimer suggestion. So using Alyssa's, just a little information about how I wrote these particular 7 poems, using Alyssa's initial suggestion of a format of 7 sections for ice skating programs, I knew I needed to write 7 individual texts and decided to link them through the idea of time. In a document I shared with Alyssa, Martin, and Pablo, as well as other collaborators in the GOE 26 project, I included notes about influences, images, and movements, ideas meant as context or as a mood board. Nothing in the suggested draft was fixed in concrete. Innovations and alterations were all possible. So, please consider this meeting we are having as a beginning of a conversation we can hold. I'm happy to discuss or brainstorm with you and also content to hear only the final product. All of this material I share is ripe for picking and plucking over with an openness to changes of any sort. Maybe you want to switch, trade, or collapse sections. I think that's all great. I personally encourage composers to manipulate the text in any way, to lift a sentence out and throw out all the others, repeat one line throughout the piece, write new words of your own into the text. Anything goes. The text for me is not fixed or precious, and performers are welcome to contribute too. So if there are any ideas about theme or content you want to chat about, please contact me and we can do that, because everything is open to collaborative discussion. So, shall we read the poems? Do we have time for that? Is that a good idea? Okay. Okay. Shall I just go ahead and read them while you read along? Okay. And I'm curious, I wanted to do a little bit of an exercise, and I'm not quite sure how to do that, but I was thinking about, Luca, our conversations about notation, and I was thinking about there may be ways that you all could help me either annotate, notate, or notice where my breathing or my emphasis might be, and in doing so support me in being perhaps more exploratory about how to read them. So maybe I'll read a poem or two and then invite somebody else in the room to read it, or a different poem, and we can play around with that type of breath. The book Underwater begs the question about duration and breath and all of that. And of course, a poet trying to read something has to be aware of their breath too. So those things seem to go hand in hand. Okay.
Also, if someone wants to write down and just annotate, like how Elee was describing, like annotate some things about the poem, like some kind of, that would actually be really cool and interesting when we look.
Yeah. How would we get you a copy of the poem quickly? Could we email it, or could you take I don't know.
If you want to airdrop it, it will be perfect.
Okay. How do I do that? What's the quickest way to do that? Should I try to copy the content that? Do you have the text in the Google Drive that you could?
I can try and airdrop it, or is it possible to just text to you the Google link? I mean, we can cut this out of the video, no stress.
Sorry, I didn't fully understand like how best to do that. I could have been a little bit more prepared.
No worries.
Okay.
No worries. We are all relaxed.
Okay, cool.
You want us to be more like...
I don't know. I feel like PhD composition people and like all you intellectual wunderkinds are like technologically advanced. Okay.
Yeah, we're notoriously too chill.
The Italians are extremely...
Okay.
They have the bar very high.
Very high. Luca, do you need a table? Do you want to come sit at a table or anything? Okay. Okay.
Table right next to you.
Yeah. And there's also this one, like you could sit right in front of the screen if you want.
What I have actually is a Google Doc that I can send to everybody
Amazing. That would be perfect.
Myself.
That would be
So,
perfect.
I'm going to send this in the session of course, and I will also text it to the both of you on Instagram.
And don't forget Sefer and Aiken.
Oh yes, they're on the.
Oh, they can see it there, but that means they can't annotate it.
Yeah, I sent it to them in WhatsApp.
Did you? Beautiful.
So I got the-
Thanks,
I got
Alyssa.
that. So, I need to now send this to. Okay. You should have your Instagram, Luca, and
Yes.
Yo, 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 yo.
Okay, you should also have it. I sent it to you via Instagram and everything else via the WhatsApp.
Okay. Excellent.
So, watch out.
And you feel free, if you want to annotate it, you can, and if it's something you want to share, if not, it's an invitation.
Yeah, and frankly, I'm super interested in, like, even if this is something that you do next week as you react to your own reading of the poems, I'd be so curious to hear and see your notations, because I find it, as like a person who works with visual poetry, it's really, really useful. And also, poets are not trained in how to annotate our work. So I would be very happy to import knowledge from your world into mine so that I could leave myself notes in my books about how to read them. Should I start? Do you need another minute to pull the docs up?
You can start at, I'll figure it out. I'm not connected to that, to the world, the World Wide Web.
Oh yeah, I hear you. Some days it feels like that. Okay. Today the windows are covered in feelings. Today the windows are covered in feelings, thick as curtains blocking morning light. The clock chimes and we turn to move within the standard minute. We turn down the volume on the internal hour and welcome the metronome into the living room, where we rarely turn it loose with more than one drink. What is it to rework time, to begin again and again, doubling and fizzing like vision in reckless dawn? If we hold the clock against our ribs, can we synchronize? Now, the wet rhythm on the window becomes the pace. What if everything is time to the human mind, even water? If I jar the ocean, can I trap time? Orcas slice their comma shadows close to seals and salmon. Waterfalls stripe white lines through the mountain skirt of green and fallen pine. Threads of froth course apart in the scalp of the forest. Clouds settling a conversation with breath. Clouds softening inside the clock. An hour pulses, floods the minute. 5 years, 2 months, and 7 days ago, we pushed the book underwater, rippling time in silver speed under the covers, and we called it a clock. Shift and lag, a waterlog of time. We watch the underwater clock to prove it is changing, and therefore, so are we. This submerged story is a fish, curling, turning, and breathing, a lung of time. Fern-like algae float free from the pages, edges deckled in bubbles of historic air. Albumen ribbons in the water. Words recompose, gerunding time. Cover sloughs, wrinkled old skin. Bull kelp bones, barnacled bones, abalone bones. The water a little cloudy, greasy. Mold blooms a foamy pulp of syllables. Inside this water is a city, and inside the city, a building. Inside the building, the story listens. Sometimes a long yellow tongue, sometimes none. It nuns in the aquarium of silence as only patience can. Sunbeam in a cell phone on the beach, a shell on the beam, someone pulling mussels from the mud. Eons old action repeated. Muscle memory folded into time lapse. Water tinged saffron with the sweat of words. Browned and yellowed scales peeling. A water story is a quiet timepiece. Our impatience lifts the skin to read. So those poems were quite standard narratively. There's nothing experimental in how I read them or in what's going on there, but that's not necessarily how they'll stay. These are new poems to me, and this is your first time hearing them. So it's possible that if I were to read them another time, I would be reading them quite differently. Should I just keep going? Any questions or ideas? Keep going? Okay.
What would you focus on if you want to read them differently?
I think I would maybe use vocal techniques like breathe, like sometimes a long yellow tongue, sometimes a long yellow tongue. I don't know, I might just play a little bit, like almost riffing or like just experimenting how the words feel in my tongue or in my breath, something like that. And then I might even find places where I need to repeat a line, even though it's not indicated here. There might be something that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna circle back up and read it again just because it feels good, something like that. There's definitely the poem that you set, the click, grind, that one's more evident to me where we can do things. But let's see. I mean, maybe so this is the one I was saying we could do more with, but let me read A Dream in Baleen. Hold a sieve to an ear to filter sounds. Softly drop dream words onto the carpet. On the sonic-soaked surface, shrieks and horns and engine pass crash against the humpback song. Years later, still here. Years ago, arriving now. Below the surge of tide, the chop and wash. The chop and wash, the chop and wash. A whale's deep current call travels low along the flow where faster water glides slick and smoothly around the gyre. The moaning song takes a day to sing, becomes slow in tone as it roams to home.
But I see like you follow scholastically what the words sort of like, if it says slow, you slow down.
I know, I was thinking to myself like, nah, that was an easy choice. But there's other ways to pull against it. First thought, not necessarily best thought. So that's why it's helpful to have people who, you know, can react and suggest and so forth. Okay. Grind, click, glitch. Each night I count my teeth and put to bed with a kiss from the tip of the tongue, the brushing, the touching, the speaking, the chewing, a grinding routine, a calcium clock, each granite top. Bite the wrist and watch this white semicircle fill in a pink minute. How I write the day forward and erase it, rewrite it, write the day forward and erase it, rewrite it, write the day forward to replace it, rewrite it. Here's the trick for being two places at once. Wait for the clock to click and glitch, then dive with a pillow, not killing time so much as suffocating it. Wait for the day, then rewrite it and erase it with a swallow.
Now you read it like my song.
Yeah, do you think so? Okay, so here's a complex poem. Does anyone want to read this? Try reading this. Martin? No, thank you. Martin hates it.
Come on, man, go, let's do it.
Does anyone want to try?
Martin, I want Martin to read it.
Yeah, Martin doesn't want to, so we're not going to force him.
Martin is very pushy sometimes.
Okay, so sometimes in a situation like this, I might even read it backwards.
Like what? Row.
No, like even just simply ripening and falling from the hour, you are running towards the sound, no voice. Like I feel quite happy about changing the order of things. No voice, ripening and falling from the hour, you are running towards the sound. Towards the sound, ripening and falling from the hour, you are no voice, running. Like I'm quite interested in the different ways that we can reassemble this, like the bookfish that was falling apart and coming together again. It's not too many elements, but the complex possibilities just go on and on. So
that leads me to a question.
Yeah.
Do you consider the title a part of it?
yeah, I do. Yeah, and I don't feel. I'm not usually somebody who will use the title as also the first line. That's rare for me. And I'm also not stuck on I would be happy if some hypothetical composer was going to set this poem and they chose their own title for the piece. They don't have to use no voice, you know? Does anyone want to try reading it or combining it? Yeah, please. Wait, let me come stand by you because I've got the microphone.
Yeah, because of the
Excuse me, Luca. Here, okay.
Wait, do I need the mic?
No, it's on me here.
It's on
so I'm just
you.
going to be staring at you awkwardly.
Oh, nice. No voice. You are running towards the sound, ripening and falling from the hour.
Oh, beautiful. Again.
No voice. You are running towards the sound, ripening and falling from the hour.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Who else? Who else wants to stand next to me and try reading it? Pablo?
We'll do it.
Okay.
So completely backwards, like hour, death from falling and ripening. Sound towards running, are you? Voice no.
Excellent. Again.
Hour, death from falling and ripening. Sound towards running, are you? Voice no.
Excellent.
Sounds pretty cool, no?
Yeah? Do you want to try?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Ripening and falling.
Beautiful. Again.
Ripening and falling.
Gorgeous. I love that. I love that. Okay, I'm going to let this person in. Whoa. Do you want to try, Martin?
No, I'm good.
Do you want to try?
I'm just soaking it all up.
Luca, do you want to try? Okay. Okay, so let me.
Can I try maybe?
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm so sorry. Of course. Invisible people. Welcome.
Yeah, it will be a bit nonsense maybe, but okay. You towards are the running sounds, rippling and falling from the hour. No voice.
Beautiful. Again.
You towards are the running sounds, rippling and falling from the hour. No voice.
Gorgeous. I love this concept of running sounds. That's beautiful. Okay, who was that? Was that? That was Akin. Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Sefer or Alina, would you like to try?
I can try
Okay.
if it's possible. You are ripening and falling, running from the hour towards the sound. You are ripening and falling, running from the hour towards the sound. No voice.
Again. That was gorgeous. Again.
You are ripening and falling, running from the hour towards the sound. You are ripening and falling, running from the hour towards the sound. No voice.
Beautiful. Wow, you all are giving me so many new combinations of things that I could do or try. I really appreciate this. Amazing.
And I just want to say, Forrest just claimed the poem to be said. Sorry, everybody.
Forrest decides that Forrest wants to set this one. Okay, Forrest, that's exciting. It's like an auction. Going once, going twice. Yeah. Okay. Alina, did you want to try it?
Sorry, I just arrived now, so
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure of what you're trying in the moment.
Yeah, no problem. Welcome. No sweat. You can jump in whenever you want to. You'll have another choice if you want. But we're basically just playing with the different ways of voicing a poem and thinking as I'm reading. Some of the composers are actually annotating my reading. And so we're just having a conversation about the different ways that one can recompose a poem and how basically me just saying that I really love that type of collaborative readjustment. And so I'm not like a hands-off kind of poet. I'm like get in there and mix it up. So the composers and pianists were just experimenting with delivering different kinds of readings, that the more that we experiment voicing these poems, the more ideas I'm already gathering, and I'm sure some of you are thinking of things too. So that's where we are.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll think about it.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go on to read the next poem. Well, it's funny that won't. Okay. Okay, there we go. Wet Hex. Writing wet words on your forehead. Consonants clutch between eyebrows. Evaporation works itself into the poem, salting a sluggish hour as it slides around the plate of the day. Would anyone like to try that one?
Yeah.
Coming over.
But just can I have 30 seconds?
Yeah, you can have as long as you want. Does anyone want to try while Pablo's thinking? Martin. That's a hard no? Okay.
That's too much pressure.
Let me sit next to you. Okay.
Writing between eyebrows. Wet words. And I like that.
Yeah.
Writing between eyebrows. But writing wet words between eyebrows. Evaporation on your forehead. Consonants clutch. Evaporation on your forehead as it slides around the plate of the day.
No voice.
Yeah. I mean, now I'm like, what if you only read the words that have a W in them, or only read the words that have an E in them?
Writing wet words between eyebrows works.
That was good. Yeah.
Wet forehead between eyebrows.
Yeah.
Evaporation poem. No, evaporation itself poem. Slides. The plate. The
Salting slides on your forehead. Sluggish writing between consonants. You can pull a lot of sentences from one poem, right? Very fun.
Words works. Hour wet.
Words works. Hours wet. I like that.
As it slides around the plate of the day, salting a sluggish hour, evaporation works itself into the poem. Consonants clutch between eyebrows, writing wet words on your forehead. Wet hex. I don't know, just sometimes something as simple as just starting in the middle or the end or something, it really changes the poem for me. Sometimes I end up liking it better when it's upside down. Yeah. Anyone else want to try an experiment, or to read it differently, or to not use like spoken word for it? Does anyone want to sing it or tap it or rhythm it or hex it?
I wonder if Martin wants to share his approach with what he actually did with the text, because he did something really interesting with the text and the actual composition.
Yeah.
That might be kind of interesting if you want to share.
Well, I totally tore it apart.
Okay, I'm going to come stand by you so that I can record you.
Well, some of it was just backwards, because, I focused on the hex part, so there's some incantation going on, so I wanted it to sound incantation-y. Is that a word? I don't even know.
Incantatory.
So for the title, instead of wet hex, it was xe-te. Right, it was literally just backwards. Literally backwards. Yeah. But right. But then for the rest of the text, and I don't think I used all of it in the end, but I would use syllables from different words and then rearrange them into things that kind of sounds like language but isn't language. And sometimes they would use something like a syllable two forwards, and then from another word something backwards, so it sounded like a word that then morphed into something that wasn't a word, vice versa. So
it was particularly joyful for me that Martin requested a Zoom meeting because he had taken 6 pages of notes on this, and he was like, this thing's breaking my brain.
It is.
And I had written it in a way that, again, it was like, it just sort of arrived like Athena from the forehead of Zeus. I don't know, not saying that that is a godly poem at all, or like a perfect poem, but what happened is that the more that Martin talked about it, the more I began to understand it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm grateful for this conversation, because the more that you were asking me questions about it, the more I was thinking to myself, oh, I didn't know that was the move I was making. How can I make that move in a future poem? So it's very, very instructive, educational, and helpful for me as a working person to be in conversation deeply about these things.
But
Yeah.
also on the flip side, for me, when we talked, you were talking about this other poet that sort of inspired this poem,
Yeah.
right? That I would have never, I didn't know that poet for starters, so I would have never gotten there by myself.
Yeah, and
with the writing on your forehead,
Yeah.
that is an actual practice that person teaches.
there's a poet named C.A. Conrad who has this practice of doing rituals in order to prepare oneself to be in a state of attentiveness, so that one can then take notes on the poem, notes for a poem, out of this, noticing the effects of a ritual. And one of the rituals is like wetting the finger, looking in the mirror, and writing words on your forehead. And so I had done this as part of my practice, and so I was able to share that with Martin. Yeah.
First line.
Yep.
So again, with the ritual, right? So
Yeah,
that
with the ritual.
Reinforced my feeling that I wanted to do a ritual, since
Yeah.
there's a ritual behind the ritual, so it's
Yeah.
multi-layered. So
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Okay, I think we just have one poem left. Oh no, we have two. We have two. Streaming. 5 years, 2 months, and 7 days. A line of white water fell through green, the span of the breath, the gill of the tree, a root in the cloud. Push the blade against the skin of the pale apple moment, peeling the spiral of now. So actually that was the last poem, and to me it felt very much like a bookend poem coming up to the first one. So as I was thinking about these 7 poems, I wanted to have a sense of motion, but I also, because when we talk about time, we think about circles and loops and closing the loop. And when skaters are on the ice, they're always skating, they're stroking around the boundary of the ice before they come into the middle. And it's funny because there's always an established direction that skaters will skate, you know? It's a very awkward thing when they have to start skating counterclockwise. It's like, we're all dogs, we want to turn to the right. So it just felt to me like a nice gesture to come back into this concept of the circle and the spiral there.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Because I will just repeat all this because I know there's new people online. But most of you, of course, have seen that with these poems we created this sort of ice experience, ice show, that there were multiple different numbers or groups or pieces that were each based on one of these poems. For people that were there and present, you probably are starting to recognize some of the text already from being inside of this. In your experience, after seeing this, did your relationship or feeling about the text change, or were there new things that kind of it brought to light about the text that maybe we saw that like you didn't, or things that, yeah, I was just curious how it changed after seeing that.
Yeah, I haven't been able to get the tunes and the melodies out of my head. I've had certain words that are cycling, so it has hexed me. Like it has been, I have been like ensorcelled by these, like it's its own, the experience I had of hearing Helena sing my largely unintelligible words because I couldn't hear my own words in there, the acoustics and everything. The material of my poem was like the bookfish, actually. The material of my words, it was as if they were held underwater, and I couldn't hear my own words well through the amplification process. But what I could hear was this emotional content and the elements of it as converted by the composition and the performance and all of that. So that was really interesting, actually. I hadn't thought about it that way until you just asked that. Yeah.
Because I know during the movement, like at least during A Dream in Berlin, I had to learn the choreography, and all of our cues were the text.
Yeah.
And so whenever I look at the text,
Yeah.
I immediately think, oh, do this movement.
Yeah. Well, that feels appropriate to me because, like I said, poetry looks static, but I feel it very somatically. So that makes a lot of sense to me to have that response. Yeah, that's interesting, Alyssa. Thank you for answering. Okay, that's it. Yeah, so
Good night.
good night. Yeah, sweet dreams, sweet dreams. But if anybody is curious about anything, maybe things will ferment in your thinking over the next days, weeks, months, whatever. And please feel free to reach out to me through email or through WhatsApp or however we're connected. Some of us on Instagram, because I'm very interested in what I've been learning here with you just in this room, not only what was happening in the ice rink and the preparations for that, but also what is happening in your process as you will begin interacting with these things. And it's super fun for me to get a check-in. And I'm hoping, who knows, but it would be amazing if I could actually be here to hear the concerts. Mm-hmm.